Slurpty derp, my G's. Hope you guys are doing well. And yeah, today I wanted to do a little video on the granulizer in phase plant. So this is my first sort of attempt at having a go with it. And how stupid am I? I actually shout out to Stu from Kilohertz, who's an absolute G. Kilohertz is a great company. I don't actually work for them, but I just really like what they do. But yeah, I was emailing with Stu, and I was like, I can't get the granulizer to load up. And he was like, have you checked the generator section? I was like, damn, I thought it was an effect. So here I am for like a week, not knowing that I actually already had the granulizer and I wanted to play with it. So anyway, I figured out that, you know, how to use it. And here's a little loop that I made like just for fun, and then we'll talk about the second loop, which is a bit dirtier of a bass line, and then I'm going to talk about how this granulizer is actually going to level up the phase plant game for us specifically as yeah, heavy bass enthusiasts. So here's like a little intro loop that's not related to the video, but it's just a few sounds that I made using the granulizer. So particularly this one is like the sort of main lead sound here. This is the digital human sound, which I posted on a little story, and that was made with the granulizer using the male phonemes sample. By the way, what do you think of the moustache? I think I might twiddle the ends and style it a bit better, but I need to get some sort of maybe, I don't know, beard oil for that? I don't really know. I've never had a moustache, but anyway. So this is the bass that I want to talk about today, called the Black Ember, because it's a marimba, or a kalimba actually. It's a kalimba but made a bit darker, so I call it a Black Ember. Anyway, it's going to provide the context for me explaining why the granulizer is wicked and why it's going to be even better as we move forward with our sound design journey. So yeah, on its own, you know, pretty nasty sound. Yeah, and that was just the sort of first. Well, obviously, I was toying around with these other sounds here using the granulizer, like I just mentioned. Yeah, but thanks, Logic. But this one was the sort of nastiest one, obviously, so I thought I'd talk mostly about this one. And yeah, it's going to provide this new formula that I've sort of been thinking about when we apply this to some other samples. We're going to get some wicked sounds out of this, my G's. So, yeah, as we dive in, let me just tell you then about the sort of chain... The chain of command. So basically, just like I normally do, my phase plant preset, the default preset, I've set up to have a little bit of white noise, a nice low sine wave at -24, and then I would usually have like a sample section or another oscillator to feed into the low bass, yeah, with some FM. So this time, what we're going to do is we're basically going to FM our normal sample into the sine wave, but we're also going to have the granular control of the sample this time. So imagine, you know, most of the cool sounds I've come up with before have been like FMing various things like into a sine wave, so that you can like the idea is you blend something with a sine wave, so you've still got that main sine wave in there that's providing like the bassy power. But now, when we blend something into it, we can also play with the grains on it, and so you get like even more interesting textures and tones, but running that through the sine wave still, so we've still got like a nice bass to go along with it, you know? So, like I said, a bit of white noise here that's just like high passed, so don't have any low end, you just add a little filter here, just a small amount. And then, yeah, we've got our sine wave. And then I've gone for, I'm just going to do a few, I think, presets and tutorials using like the kind of default samples that you get in phase plant. So you guys can go ahead and copy them as well, you know. So this is in the percussion section, the kalimba inharmonic. Yeah, so obviously, like I had to discover the hard way, in the generator section, you just select granular, and then I open up this granular mode here, and then we'll choose the sample, like I just said, the kalimba inharmonic. Yeah, and then basically, what we're going to do is play with a few of the settings here. So with the position, that's where you can, I believe, you can like make the selection of the sample longer that you want to like draw the grains out from. Yeah. So sometimes you want to have a longer section. On this point, I just wanted to have like just a very straight, specific line. Yeah. And then you can simply move around the line as to, you know, where you're getting the grains from. Yeah. And so in this kalimba, obviously at the start, it's like a plucked instrument, right? So the transient at the start is obviously the loud bit. But what I found was when I FM'd it into the sine wave that I was dealing more with the tail of the sound of the kalimba, so not the initial pluck, but the end part, and I was FMing that into the sine wave, you know. So that's why I did it a little bit to the right of the pluck, and then the amazing thing is with this is we can apply an LFO to a lot of the settings on the granulizer, and then so we can like provide that movement that then will go into the sine wave with the FM. Okay, so the first thing I'm moving, I think 3 things actually. So like I said before, you've got the position, which is important. You know, you can just move that around, and then you can modulate that. So we apply an LFO here, and you can put it right on this line, and then I could turn it up more if I wanted to. But in this sound, it's like quite a short area that I want to move between, you know, because at the end, you know, it's there's not really much left there. So I'm sort of just moving around inside that sort of tail that there is at the end of the pluck. So I'll bring that back a bit. Yeah. So just kind of moving around in that tail area. And then, yeah, the other things that you can modulate. So actually the amount of grains. So obviously you can choose how many. It's going to make quite a big difference, obviously. Yeah, it's all going to make quite a massive difference to the actual final sound that you get. Okay. So I've just left it at 3.84, but again, you can modulate that, so you can change the grain amount. So I've put a little bit of that on the LFO. And then I've also, it's the grain envelope. I believe this is going to be more like how long each individual grain is. I believe I might have to read that and explain it better to you guys. But this is quite a crucial parameter as well. As you can hear, if I just turn this LFO off for a moment. So I believe it's like the kind of length of the grain, to be honest, yeah? With the envelope, obviously, you can get tighter control here as well. But the important thing is that we have like a myriad of controls that we can use in combination to get the desired tone and texture that you want to then run through the sine wave, yeah? So the amount of the grains, the length of them, and then the position within your sample. So these are like my 3 favorite things to play around with here. So by getting a combination of all 3, that's where you can get, in my opinion, like your chosen and best desirable tone from the granular effect. Yeah, so those are the only 3 that I'm really super concerned with. Yeah, of course there's other things you can do, like I think, you know, changing the way that the grains move or like reversing them will be slightly different, but you'll get a great result if you just focus on the main 3 things here, which is the position and modulate that, the amount of grains and modulate that, the length of the grains and modulate that. If you do all 3 of those are like the main 3. you'll be able to get some wicked tones out of any sample. And then, like, with the position would be the fourth thing that I'd want to play with. But obviously, if you're doing like kind of shorter grains and trying to get a tone from like the sort of, you know, the really fast movement of a grain, like sometimes it'll be a bit more. I want to say it's going to be a bit more like concise and aggressive when you have when you don't like give it so much of the sample to work with, when you have it like really short. So it's going to be a bit more sort of, yeah, I feel like it's going to be a bit more, have more bite, you know. It's going to be that I think I would do a bigger position if I wanted something more like ethereal or pad like, perhaps. Anyway, that's not important right now, so don't worry too much about that for this tutorial. Just focus on the position of the selection here. Yeah, so we're modulating that. We're modulating the position line, the amount of the grains, and the length of them. Yeah, and then we'll set the output, like I said here. Output goes into our sine wave, and we just turn that up. So obviously, like, it's the same with FMing in Vital, for instance. Like, you don't want to go too high or it goes too squeaky and horrible, and too low you won't really hear it. So somewhere in the middle, normally like sort of a quarter of the way round, is always quite a nice place to start. Okay, and like I've got my LFO on here, as I mentioned before, and I've just drawn in like a pretty random shape. It started off as a ramp down, but I just kind of moved it around. And I've set some macros to the speed of the LFO and also to the phase, so you can change the starting position of it. So we can go ahead and move all these macros to just get different movements out of it, basically, you know. And then I've got a Tony on here, which is going to mostly be giving us a little variation number 2 on the effects settings. So let's go ahead and add in the effects so you can hear it a bit more clearly with a bit more volume, because obviously we need to distort this sound as well, because distortion is just the way. So lane 1, I've start off with a tiny bit of reverb, about 6%. Yeah. And it's the modern church, I think. It just sounded really nice with that one. So love the convolution as always. And then the overdrive with the distortion. So I've got a little bit of movement on that for the Tony. So we'll take that off for now. But yeah, just a bit of spread, a bit of overdrive, and then the comb filter. So really like this a lot. Just to add some extra harmonics, give it a bit more of an edge. And I think I left it how it comes. I think it loads up at 440, and I kind of left it at that and just mixed it in a bit. Yeah, so lane 2, then I've got some filtering here. So we've got a nicely driven, saturated notch filter, which is going to be moving on our LFO here. Yeah, just trying to get some extra harmonics out of the sound by making use of the filter modes, which are yeah, always providing like new and extra harmonics. Similar with this one, this is just I think this is just the normal filter here, just a little bit more notch filtering, just to make it a bit more neurofunk. Okay, and then where we filtered things out, we got to sort of reintroduce a bit more volume again. So I've got a few sort of final plugins here. We'll just run through them one at a time. And the sine fold distortion mode, or the sine distortion mode. Okay, so really quite a gnarly one, a nasty distortion. Yeah, makes you want to twiddle your mustache. So that one, yeah, starts to get some really growly neurofunk sounds out of what we've already made at this point, you know. So always just flicking between the distortion modes and trying to find the best fit for this particular sound, because they'll always be different for each one, you know. Then a little bit of just kind of boosting the sound a bit more. So a bit of a high-end boost in the EQ just to make it a little bit louder. I don't want to boost the lows too much more because it starts to distort then at that point. Here's the ring mod as well, which I like a lot, and get a bit of extra grit when you use the self mode, and then turn the bias up, and then find a nice balance for the rectify, mix it off a little bit. And it's almost an extra level of movement that adds like a nice growl to the sound. So that's something I do quite a lot these days. And then the Faturator, a little bit of fuzz just mixed in, a very small amount, 5%, just to try and get a little bit more volume out of the high end. And then I've just chorused the whole thing very slightly again. Just because I thought it could use a little bit more warmth, basically. The global unison is on as well. That's very important. I've had that on the whole time since the beginning. Okay, and makes it sound like, again, it's sort of in the way the chorus does, you know, spreading the voices and giving us a bit more width. But I've only blended it in, so it's not 100%, you know. So that's the main concept for this tutorial, pretty much. And like I said before, here is the speed of the LFO can be controlled. Obviously, like I've already saved this now, so I don't mind messing it up. But if I wanted to do something a little bit crazier, let's maybe do like a ramp down again and speed it up. Let's try a couple of other shapes quickly. And we just mess with the grains a bit. Maybe mess with the position as well here. I'm a little bit limited to like where the best part of this sample is because it's like a really short one. Obviously, if you have like a longer piece of information in the sample, then you've got like more room to play with. But in general, that's back to how it was originally before I messed it all up. Anyway, I think this sounds wicked, and yeah, the important thing is that we now have a much better, basically, sampler, because I would always use this instead of just the sample section, because if I'm going to FM something into a sine wave, like a sample, to try and get a new textural bass that's very unique, I now have an extra level of control with that by playing with the grains, the length, and the position within the sample. So it's just going to... It seems to me like I would just always do this instead of using the normal sample section now. So I'm absolutely chuffed that they've added this in because this is just the first one so far. And it's already like proper neuro-y and textural and beautiful. So I can't wait to do a couple more with these. And I'm going to keep you guys updated. I'm going to try and make another a beastie granular bass, and share exactly what I did and what sample I used. I'll try and stick to the main ones like I just said. And yeah, but I hope you guys would enjoy that. If you've got phase plant and you're enjoying the granular synthesis section, leave a comment down below. Let us know how you're getting on with it. And yeah, as always, if you guys want private mentorship for your music production journey, I do private tuition. So links for that are always down below. And I've got a bunch of phase plant presets and vital presets down on my website. You can join that there. I've also got a private Discord with some amazing people in there. If you ever want to join, you can do that via Patreon. And you can also join on Patreon just for €1 a month if you want like some extra content and some free presets and things like that. Thanks a lot for watching, my G's. Hope you have a wicked rest of your day, and I'll catch up with you guys soon. Peace.